Do you experience an issue with excess weight? Has weight loss been the prime focus of most of your adult life? If that is you, then this video is exactly for you. In this video, I'm actually going to be highlighting the deep lessons that I have learned over the last 3 decades of my practice as a bariatric surgeon, because I have now had the privilege of seeing men and women experience the issue of excess weight and how it is eroding into the overall quality of their lives on a day-to-day basis. See, when you've done over 9,000 procedures, and that not only includes surgery, it also includes non-surgical procedures like gastric balloons, you get to see patterns. And these are the patterns that are actually driving people towards short-term success. And that is where these challenges are so unique between men and women. Watch this video till the end, and I can assure you, you will truly feel empowered by the end of it. Well, let me tell you outrightly, the views that I'm expressing in this video are purely personal. The intention behind these views is to empower you, the listener, rather than disempower you. I come from a platform of respect for your state where you are, and none of the content that I'm expressing here is meant to be disrespectful. What I'm trying to present in this video is the unique weight loss challenges that are specific to men versus women. So if you are someone who's been experiencing these challenges over the course of most of your adult life, I can tell you, you will get a lot of value from this video. I have broken down the aspects of differentiation between men and women on the level of body, the mind, and the spirit. Yes, you heard me right, on the level of the spirit. Now, a lot of people think that a spiritual level or a spiritual dimension to weight loss sounds absurd. For many, it is not going to make sense. That how can a spiritual dimension lead to a weight management issue? Well, I'll tell you something. Spirituality is not just going to the church or the temple every Sunday. That is called being religious. I consider myself as a spiritual person. I may not be a religious person. And I think that's where, to me, spirituality is the energy around the individual. What is the energy in your being, in your presence? So with that understanding, let's talk about the differences in the weight loss challenges between men and women. So firstly, on a bodily level, this is what my observations of over 9,000 procedures, as I said, and this is coming from that deep level of experience. From a bodily level, men tend to mostly have what we call as an apple-shaped obesity or truncal obesity, in which they tend to gather most of their weight in the middle of their body, which is in the trunk. The arms are skinny if they have not been working on it. The legs are skinny. Everything is over here in the middle part. This is something that is a perfect recipe for what we call as a health crisis, because truncal obesity leads to increase in visceral fat. Visceral fat makes an individual more prone to not only developing things like diabetes, fatty liver, and high cholesterol and high blood pressure, but also things like higher risks of heart attacks and strokes. Now, when you look at women on the other side, women tend to gather most of their weight, or they gain most of their weight on the thighs, on the legs, on the hips, on the breasts, which is something which creates a different kind of pain. And that pain is more on the level of the mind, where women feel judged. They have a lower self-esteem. Even though women may have a protective effect on a bodily platform because of the feminine hormones, women are known to be genetically stronger than men in terms of their ability to survive long times or long durations. However, when excess weight becomes more and more of an issue, it can start to have a detrimental effect. So much about the challenges where the differences are coming between the men and women on a bodily level. Let's talk about the mind a little bit, because we're going deeper now. When it comes to mind, see, women and men think totally differently. Men think that when it's a weight issue, they can actually work it off in the gym, or they can actually starve themselves by having a coffee and a cigarette in the morning. But by the time men come back home, they are exhausted and famished. And what do? They go for a big meal where portion control becomes an issue, generally with a drink, and then they crash in front of the television set. Now, this cycle of starvation, binge eating, going straight to the bed. And when I say binge, I mean, it is essentially a large portion, greasy meal, generally speaking, at night, and you go straight to bed after that because you're not doing any physical activity. You don't have energy after that. This cycle, repeated over time, leads to a state of burnout of willpower. You don't have any willpower to create a change. Your life is on a copy and paste, like a repeat mode, which is going in a loop. The famous scientist Einstein said that if you keep doing the same things and expect different results, well, that's called insanity. Now let's look at the mental challenges as far as women go. Now, when I just alluded to, as far as the bodily platform goes, women start to experience with weight gain that sense of judgment and poor self-esteem. But more importantly, women are very good at multitasking. This is something that we all men say, that hey, if you are a multitasker, you must be a woman. But the multitasking comes at its own price, and it leads to an increased level of stress. You can't do all the activities with the same level of mental sharpness if you are spread all over the place. This is where multitasking actually works against you, and combined with not regular eating habits leads to a low self-esteem, creating lack of confidence. Now, what does lack of confidence do to an individual's self-esteem? Well, it creates a state of victimhood, which means that the individual finds it easier to blame rather than to take responsibility for their lives. And that is where you find that people, women especially, and I'm being very respectful of women, these are just my observations, these are not judgments, that women feel they are at the mercy of others. And time again, I have heard women in their late 40s, in their 50s, come and say to me in my consulting session, it is my time now. I have been giving of myself all through my life, and look at what I've made of myself. This is something that I hear time and time again. Let's go to the next deeper level, which is that of spiritual or emotional energy. See, I have come to the firm belief that human beings mostly know what to do, but they rarely do what they know. And the reason for that is our emotional energy comes in the way. Our thoughts are mostly of a negative nature that you think about in a day. The human brain thinks about 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day. And here is the fascinating part. Almost 90% of them are thoughts that you thought the day prior. So they are being repeated again and again and again. And when you combine this or layer this on top of what an individual may have experienced in their childhood or in the past, like a hurt or a trauma or an incident, it starts to influence the individual's belief system. This is what starts to shake the belief system. And when your belief system is weak, well, what is religion? Religion is a faith. It is a belief system. And that is where the challenges start to come. Men have been raised as young boys, have been told boys should never cry. What does that mean? That means that you do not have the ability to express your emotions in a respectful way. So what do when you can't express? Well, you suppress and repress your emotions. This suppressed and repressed energy leads to states like anger. Anger means frustration that you are not in a position to create a change in your environment. This anger, when it is directed outwards, is called rage. And this anger, when it is directed towards the individual themselves, is called guilt and depression. And these are the things that rob the individual of their energy. This is what causes the individual to become disempowered. And I'm talking about men over here. And this is what I see mostly a pattern by the time they have reached their mid-50s or early 50s as well. And that is called midlife crisis. Now let's see how women behave. Now when it comes to women, women have been told as young girls that girls should only be seen and not heard. Now, what does that mean? That when you are rising, or when you're being when you're growing up in an environment like this, and there is some incident, some remarks that have been passed on you, it leads to a state of gradual build-up of frustration, and you are always on the alert for being judged by others. This is what leads to a low self-esteem, to a point where it leads to self-hatred. You do not like the look of the person that you see in the mirror, and that translates to self-neglect. Self-neglect is a state where a woman starts to rely more and more on staying confined within the four walls rather than going out because she feels exposed. When you take this to the next level, it actually leads to relying on food to feed her emotions, because food is the most easily available thing that is available to a woman who is wanting to confine herself. And this is what sets the stage for emotional eating disorders like binge eating and anorexia, which is the other extreme of the scale. And this significantly impacts mental health. So why I'm bringing this information to you is I truly believe that information can create transformation. If you think that any of this resonates with you, I would urge you to go to my website, which is called centerforweightloss.com.au, and download many of the free resources that I have got over there, which include not only some downloadable meditations, downloadable PDFs, which will allow you to go on this journey of self-exploration, because truly weight loss is not just about calorie counting. Weight loss is a journey that you have to undertake on the level of the body, the mind, and the spirit. Take care and stay safe.